Welcome to the wrestling podcast that's not just for wrestling fans. This is Smark Friends on lovewrestling.ca. My name is Zach and I'll be your host. I'm going to be introducing you to another podcast today. It's called The Luchador, the 1000 Fights of El Fuego Fuerte. As you can probably tell by the title, this is going to be very intriguing for wrestling fans, but wrestling fans, you might want to refer this one to someone in your life who's not necessarily a wrestling fan themselves, but if they're into radio plays or Mexican cinema, because this is an audio adventure podcast styled after the classic 1970s Lucha Libre cinema. It's a great conversation. I'm speaking with the series creator, Dan Valero Fletcher, and the series star, Jeffry Tito Saenz. The first episode of season 1 is going to launch on October 5th, and it sees the heroic El Fuego Fuerte battle Aztec vampires while wrestling with his own past mistakes. I know you're already stoked after hearing that premise, much like I was, but after this conversation, you will be chomping at the bit because this sounds amazing and I cannot wait to hear it. I promise you won't be able to wait to hear it as well. Before we get to the interview proper, wrestling saw some really good news happen earlier this week, Monday, when I'm recording this little intro, and I've been smiling all day. All Elite Wrestling has announced a partnership with the Martha Hart Foundation. That partnership is going to manifest in a couple different ways, but most intriguingly, there's going to be a tournament, the Owen Hart Tournament, in which the winner will be presented with a trophy that it will be known as the Owen. I've been a wrestling fan a long time, and few did it better than Owen Hart. His matches were tremendous, his promos were engaging, and he was taken from us far too soon. Martha Hart has honored Owen in many ways with, of course, the Owen Hart Foundation. Owen's been inducted into various Hall of Fames across North America, but this is the first time that it's happening on such a major stage. It's great to see Owen get his flowers in such a grand platform, and I'm really excited for it to happen. So I hope you are too. I know a lot of people loved Owen. I know wrestling Twitter was buzzing with the news of the Owen Hart tournament, and I know a lot of people are looking forward to it as much as I am. So, let's just sit by with bated breath till this tournament takes place. For one more thing before we get to the interview, I must thank the people who make this show and other love wrestling content possible. That's, of course, the good people at RK Athletics. RK Athletics is, of course, based out of Edmonton. They offer personal training from program design to safe and effective technique, both in person as well as several online resources at your disposal. So reach out to RK Athletics and let them know your fitness goals and start chasing them today. We're going to be back with Dan and Jeffrey right after this message.
Yo! We're the Boros Twins.
I'm the world's sweetest man, Gentleman Jervis.
This is God's gift to wrestling, Michael Richard Blaze.
This is Chelsea Green.
And we love wrestling.
And I love wrestling.
And I love wrestling.
And I love wrestling.
Oh, we're going to see a superplex powerbomb!
Just coming up to the building, Colton Kelly. Colton, I am sorry to interrupt your cigarette, my friend.
If they weren't the MVPs of pandemic wrestling, then I honestly don't know who are.
Of course, we did want to give everybody a bit of a rundown on what you can expect here on Love Wrestling through 2021 and beyond.
This crowd is going bananas! I'm Spencer Love, and this is Love Wrestling.
And we are back. Joining me today, we've got cast and crew behind the audio adventure series, The Luchador, 1000 Fights of El Fuego Fuerte. Joining me, I'm going to do a bit of a roll call since the people who are listening through podcasts can't really be sure who's who. First, I'm going to introduce the creator and producer of the series, Dan Valero Fletcher. How you doing, friend?
Doing good. Hey, glad to be here.
Yeah, glad to have you. As it is great to have Jeffry Tito Saenz. How you doing, friend?
Hey there, doing great.
Jeffry is the lead voice actor and title character of El Fuego Fuerte, and it's great to have you both joining me here today. If you don't mind my asking, where in the world are you joining me from? Let's start with Dan.
Yeah, I'm coming from Austin, Texas.
Very cool, very cool. And Jeffrey?
I'm actually in Houston, Texas, only 2.5 hours away from Dan.
The short jaunt.
From what I understand, the series has origins in California, so it must have made for an interesting early production process between the two of you.
Oh my gosh, yeah, it is an international production. I pre-pandemic lived in Los Angeles, which is where we did like the initial recordings in a very different world. And we've just been putting it together as we can. But yeah, we had Jeff was in Houston. We have guest star wrestlers coming in from all over the world. I mean, not all over the world. Mostly, it's international. We got US, we got Canada, and then our sound designer is actually in London, and now Germany. So we're bouncing all over the place.
I mean, like that sells it alone. You can just lie by omission. Yeah, we're a fully operational multinational production company. That's a feather in your cap.
Mm-hmm.
Now, Dan, I offered the premise of your podcast in my intro, but I can only do it so much justice as the outside observer. In your own words, tell us all about the Luchador.
Yeah, so it's the Luchador 1000 Fights of El Fuego Fuerte. It is a not a reimagining, but just a revival of like the classic luchador films made in Mexico in the 1960s, 1970s, that started like El Santo, Blue Demon, Mil Máscaras, where the wrestlers, like just like their kind of real life wrestling personas, like were so much larger than life, where they would, like sometimes they'd fight gangsters, they'd fight mummies, they'd fight aliens, like all sorts of things. And so it's taking that and then like kind of the modern fiction podcast, audio drama, whatever you want to call it, format, and like allow it to be like this portal into this really, really cool world that's existed in like the Mexican consciousness for decades.
What was it that inspired you or encouraged you to get this project off the ground and write a podcast about 1970s lucha libre cinema?
Yeah, I was just driving one day listening to Sirius XM radio, where they have the old-timey old-timey radio station where they like would play things from like the Shadow and the Tingler. No, that's a different thing. Anyway, there's it's something close to that. But anyways, it's something about like just the intimacy and sincerity that comes through the format, like very much reminded me of those films I'd seen before. And like, there'd been things, I forget what there was like Rob Zombie did one, and there was like Nacho Libre back in the day, where like people took like the iconography and like kind of spun it through like a certain level of camp. And like it always is going to be a little campy, but they're like, at the time, like there's a real sincerity to it. Like, these guys, this was like the biggest productions they could do at the time. And they were like putting themselves like out there and like really celebrating their own culture. And I wanted to bring that same, not just like, just play it straight, play it as is, and not try to like talk down to it at all, which is something I hadn't really seen before.
Cool. What were some of your like favorites of like the classic cinema from that genre?
Yeah. Oh, most recently I rewatched Blue Demon and the Mummies of Guanajuato. And it's there. There's a little nod later on in our season to it. I won't say any spoilers, but like it's like it really ties into, because it's like Blue Demon has to like find El Santo, and they have like this history with this wrestler they fought. My Spanish is like mediocre at best, so I might not be picking up all the details. It's just like it's really the energy you get from it. But like, yeah, it's just so fun, and just the cinematography, the angles, like they're not like amateur productions at all, but they're like definitely making very unique choices, because they're not coming in with the same baggage that like old Hollywood had at the time. And so there's just really fresh moments at every turn.
You mentioned that like you've included a reference to Blue Demon films. I suspect that this production might have a few Easter eggs. It seems like the kind of material that's kind of like ripe for that kind of reference. Am I on base here?
Yes, there is. Yeah.
Okay, fair enough.
Yeah, there's a few. Definitely both to to Lucha Libre, and just like I'm just a big wrestling nerd in general. So I started watching back in 1999. So
Okay.
anything around that era, I am super well versed in. Through today.
Right on. Jeffrey, how about you? Are you a pro wrestling fan?
So I was introduced to the Luchador world through Dan after I got cast for El Fuego Fuerte. But I was familiar with some of the Luchador films like Blue Santo versus Blue Santo. No, I'm sorry. I'm my bad. El Santo and Blue Demon versus the Monsters. That was the film I was most familiar with from my childhood. One time I spent a summer in Puebla, and it was on the TV, and I thought it was so peculiar to see these luchadores fighting off Frankenstein and other monsters that were there. So of course that stayed with me even after all these years, because it was just so out there. But at the same time, it wasn't overly campy too. It didn't take itself too seriously, but at the same, it still leaves an impact with you, So that's how I was, more so familiar, introduced into that world.
Okay, very cool, very cool. Dan filled us in on the premise, but what can you tell us about El Fuego Fuerte?
All right, so without going too much into spoilers,
of course.
Just based on my experiences in terms of recording and whatnot, El Fuego Fuerte is an individual who, at one point, renounced, I guess you would say, his culture to achieve a certain level of fame in America. And there's kind of, the reputation kind of sticks with him, and he has this level of guilt that he carries with him everywhere he goes. And I think ultimately he just does his darndest to try to overcome that barrier that keeps him from being at inner peace with himself.
Did any particular Lucha Libre films or Lucha Libre wrestlers that you might have been referred of come into a specific reference to inform the character?
Definitely. When I got cast for the character, I went back to revisit the films like El Santo and Blue Demon. I even got a little bit off of Nacho Libre. But actually, a lot of inspiration also came because before getting cast for this production, I was actually cast for another Luchador production that was animated, and for the life of me, I cannot recall the name at the moment. But I also had to, while he doesn't carry the same upbringing as El Fuego Fuerte, it was still just kind of like overcoming his weaknesses, and yeah.
Very cool. Dan, you envisioned this as a podcast to begin with. Is that correct?
Yep. Yeah. Podcast from day one.
Okay. Because I know you have a background in film. You have the web series, The Pantheon. Now, talking big goals here. So think long term. Is the Luchador something that you would bring to film?
Oh, absolutely. I think, yeah, either, I mean, the idea is you'll see as it goes, it's a big canvas. It's definitely not a YouTube web series level show, which is why we're able to go to some pretty big places with it. But yeah, no, I would love that. But just to will it into the world, step 1, podcast. Step 3 would be a movie. Step 4 would be a theme park ride. Step 2, after the podcast though, I would love to do a live show. I would love to do Jeff, I think we talked about this way back when. Do a hybrid version where you kind of take some of the narrative with the show with real live wrestling happening interspersed.
Oh, I like that.
Yeah, that's the big dream. Just a very, definitely classical luchador films, big inspiration. Lucha Underground as well.
I am glad you said Lucha Underground. That's my favorite. Oh, that season 1 of that show is magic. But I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt. Please go on.
No, exactly. Yeah. So yeah, I'd love to do a movie someday or Netflix show or what have you. But yeah, it is definitely designed primarily to be a podcast and be a listening experience first.
You both kind of touched upon the sincerity of these 1970s Lucha Libre films. And, aside from, parodies like Nacho Libre, there's not exactly a wealth of like more serious, taking itself seriously scripts such as this. Do you think there's a place for that in the world of film?
I think so. Wait, Joe, did you have an answer? I don't want to stop.
No. I'm waiting your response because that's.
I think they're superhero films. They're superhero films. It's they're detective stories. You'll see like El Fuego Fuerte and El Santo like in Batman are all just kind of like mixed in the same miasma a little bit. Like I do think like the Latino population, Latinx, Latinx, whatever you want to whatever you prefer, it is a massively underserved culture and an underserved market, like from Hollywood perspective. And I think you can create as big a world as you can with luchadors as you can with Marvel. The
Lucha cinematic universe, like
yes.
If there's the goal. There's maybe step 5 or 6.
There we go.
Jeffrey, what do you think?
I think it'd be pretty interesting it'd be freaking awesome to see El Fuego Fuerte become part of like the Marvel cast, just because at the end of the day, he is the knight in shining armor. He gets the job done. He is macho without fitting into that toxic masculinity thing. No. He is an inspiration for as like in the story. He's an inspiration for a lot of individuals. Yes, that comes with certain negativities and whatnot, but for the most part, he is a big. All of Mexico loves him, so I think it would be freaking awesome to be able to see that transition to from vocals to like an actual live performance. So I think there's a calling for that.
Awesome. I'm just loving what I'm hearing. I'm just like, I love these ideas. I want to see them come to fruition. And as is, I'm very excited about the podcast. So whatever comes beyond that, sign me up, please. Dan, I understand like you wrote the script and whatnot. What was like the recording process like? Was there room for, improvisation? Was there kind of collaboration with people in the room? What's happening there?
Yeah, we did a hybrid model to record where folks like Jeff were able to record remotely, and but we did do and then we did other sessions where we had multiple actors in the same room at the same time, and they could riff off each other. And then we also did, and also to bridge that gap, we had a couple sessions between Jeff and then the other main luchador in the film. His name is El Hijo del Lobo Sangre. Who's a young rudo, a young heel luchador who kind of comes into town and stirs things up. And Lobo and Fuerte kind of form their relationship kind of forms the background of this first season. And we did some calls with our voice actor who plays Lobo and Jeff for them to go back and forth as in character and kind of like get the familiar, and it really shows. Like I listen back to it now, and I cannot. There are times I can't tell like, oh yeah, they were in totally different rooms when they did that. But like the flow is able to come through. Our editor is really great as well. I'll send props that way.
Right on. Jeffrey, the chemistry in the well, not the room, so to speak, but the remote room, it was there?
Oh, definitely. I think after the first session that we had with myself and Ash, just getting to hear his voice and then just having to play that, as I read the script, just imagining, because a lot of, yes, Dan did a lot of directing, but also as a voice actor, we have to just kind of play around with our imagination, pretend how we're interpreting that delivery from the other actor. So the first, I was definitely able to feed off the Ash's energy just based on that first phone call. And I think we only did one session, and then after that, Dan and Brandon read for the other characters, and then I just read off of that too. So it definitely was a team effort, but yes, the chemistry was there.
Right on. Kind of jumping back to a question I posed earlier, and this is more so like the, I suppose the creative team at large, not necessarily both you gentlemen joining me today, but were there any other like big wrestling fans? Let's not talk about your guest stars just yet, of course, but in the core creative team, was there voices who were really enthusiastic about the wrestling fandom?
Yeah, I'll jump in. Our sound editor and sound engineer, Mike Mason, is a huge wrestling nerd, and he brought a lot. Oh god, he this guy wears a lot of hats. He's one of our total MVPs. He also did the original music for the show as well, and this guy, I mean, he got it from day one. And it's really good. And then my co-producer Brandon, I have like completely converted him from a guy who watched late NWO era WCW back in the day and then totally lapsed. He has now become a huge AEW nut. And we've gone to a couple wrestling shows together, and it's been
AEW has certainly captured a handful of lapsed fans. That's for sure. I know even some people in my life are like, "Oh yeah, CM Punk's back. That's got my attention. That's got my attention."
Oh my god, yeah. My wife, who's a big force behind the scenes as well. I actually got her to go out with me to an AEW show this summer. We got to see Dynamite when it was in Austin, and she had a blast. And she is not only not a wrestling fan, but someone who is always a little lukewarm about the concept as a whole. In my all the years we've known each other.
Jeffrey, like working on this like very wrestling inspired inspired piece. Have you got the bug? Do you have an inkling to attend shows on the regular? How you feeling?
Definitely. I don't actually get a chance to attend these events as often as I would like. There are times when I'm visiting relatives in Puebla, Mexico, because that's where my family's from. And sometimes when I go across, when I'm at the town in the town during the evening hours and whatnot, there's usually an actual luchador event going on. And so mind you, I don't take out my phone and whatnot because it's in the sketchy areas of downtown. So it's kind of like, let me not get into actual character here because then we're gonna have to go on full-fledged Fuego Fuerte, right? But I mean, I definitely it's interesting because seeing it actually in person, definitely you feel that energy, that charisma. They feed off the crowd where we're just going, eso, pégale, and it's definitely how I think it's gonna portray here, like in the production.
I love to hear that, man. The best part of a wrestling experience is a live crowd, and if you're able to tap into that with a podcast, man, like I'm even all the more enthusiastic for this. For this project. I want to talk about what's a little tidbit I found on the website for the luchadorpod.com. It hints at guest stars from the real world of pro wrestling. Now, Dan, can I ask who you recorded with, or is this something you want to keep a surprise?
Oh gosh, it's tough. Like so this folks are going to hear this before our episode drops. We've had different things. Some of the folks talking like, oh yeah, no, you got to lead with it. You gotta tell people. So okay, so for the folks who check this out, we'll spill the beans.
Oh my goodness.
Obviously, you pick up your audience bit by bit. So folks who listen here will be the ones in the know, and then other people will still pretend it's a surprise later on. But we had some really excited voices we were able to record with. And I won't say who appears in which episode, but AW fans, we have both Colt Cabana of the Dark Order and many other, Boom Boom. He plays a great. Here we go. I won't say what their roles are, so you'll have to listen to find out. So Colt Cabana shows up. We have Effie for Effie's Big Gay Brunch, among many other things. Very exciting, and we also have Big Calyx, a really good, fun indie wrestler. Big great guy. He's very big. Yeah. Your fellow Canadian, Lufisto. She's a really fun role. And let's see, we got also AEW, Luchasaurus hanging out there with Daniel Bryan in the main event. We got Bryan Danielson.
Old habits die hard, so no harm.
Yeah, so Luchasaurus has a really fun part as well. Two more.
My goodness!
We'll roll out the whole shebang. Just for any fans who are curious, former ECW champion Raven.
Oh damn!
He is. You will never guess who Raven is playing.
Okay.
And then one of my favorite guys on the Indies right now, Indies Ring of Honor, Dan Housen, will be joining us for a couple episodes.
That is a winning cast. Oh my goodness! Like you're saying, you're not going to reveal who they're going to be playing. I'm reminded of Frasier. How like you would have A-list celebrities calling him on his radio show, and at the end of the season they do the credits, and they would have like the headshots of all the people who called and be like, Gillian Anderson, Alex Trebek, and the like, and you have to like go back into the season and listen. So I like that. I like that little touch.
All right, I learned something about Frasier today. Did not expect that.
This is the wrestling podcast that's not just for wrestling fans. So, of course, we're going to talk about Frasier at any given opportunity. Well, Jeffrey, I mean, since the names have been dropped, out of the ones Dan has said, who's been fun to record with?
So I haven't had the pleasure of recording with anyone outside of Dan and Brandon.
Okay.
And Ash. It's because, like I said before, the distance kind of it was the only downfall about, being cast remotely before the pandemic. But I'm surprised I kind of want to hear who interprets what now, and then just finally feel like a face with a voice as the episodes start being released. So I'm looking forward to it too. It's just
I don't think Jeff has heard the final results quite yet. We've been putting this together up until the last minute.
Okay. It is unfortunate that you don't necessarily be recording with them in person or at the same time, but at the same time, that's got to be freeing for scheduling production and whatnot. I imagine that opened a lot of doors for you to let your guest stars pick and choose their availability.
Exactly. Yeah. No. Like I'm sure. Like the folks who are into it were very into it. Would they have been less into it had they had to drive themselves across town and lock themselves in a recording booth? Who knows? But I mean, Jeff, I'll say that even though you weren't able to record with them, I will definitely say that on the other end, folks recorded with you. Because we would take your recordings and have them play on it. So Dan Housen, for example, really enjoyed your performance and was riffing off it a whole bunch as well. So it works the other way. It's all a big.
That's pretty nerve-wracking to know that these very influential individuals within the Luchador world were working with my vocals before, and just to me it's surreal. I definitely want to hear how at a certain line that I delivered, I kind of want to hear how they responded back to that too.
You're the star of this, and you're as excited as I am to hear it. That's amazing. I love it.
It honestly was a really fun production. For me, I was being able to live out a childhood dream, which was not only to star in something in something voiceover wise, but also because it was I was reliving those moments when I saw, El Santo fighting alongside Blue Demon, fighting these monsters. Because, like I said, that's the staple memory that I get when I think about this production, and it was pretty cool. It was so awesome to be able to pretend to be this Mexican superhero and just kick some major ass.
Friends, this is one of my last questions for you, and I almost feel like it's redundant because we're chatting. You guys are all smiles. You're clearly very excited and chomping at the bit to release this podcast. But by the time this interview airs, the teaser is going to be released just the Tuesday before this particular episode of Smark and Friends. But put it into words. How you feeling? Let's start with Jeffrey.
Well, I what do I say? I can't wait to hear the first episode. It had been a while before I hadn't heard back from Dan in regards to the production. So it's not that I forgot about it, but I kind of moved on to other auditions and whatnot, since I still do voice acting. So when I got the email out of nowhere saying that, oh, so we're about to start airing the episodes and take a look at the, get a listen to the trailer and whatnot. I was like, oh my God, I recorded that like was it a year ago, Dan? Was it like pretty much, right? Or 2 years ago?
Yeah, because we remember this whole thing happened with the I don't even want to say the name of the everyone knows. But yeah, it was before that. It was before that.
And so to think how things, I still can't believe that we made it work. Mind you, it was, for me, it was like
the thing.
Yeah. I cannot wait to hear the final product. Like I said before, I can't wait to hear everyone's performances, because that's definitely also something I'm very interested in. Just hearing how every actor got in there, gave it their all, fed off each other's energy, and how we're gonna kick some monster ass later on. So looking forward to that, and I can't wait to hear everyone's reception whenever they hear Fuego Fuerte in his moments. That definitely for sure. I'm looking forward to just everything. Honestly, it's hard to pinpoint a favorite moment when I was recording, because it was all for me. It was awesome.
And Dan of multiple hats, writer, producer, director. How are you feeling?
I'm excited. I'm excited. It's like so many people have put so much great energy into this project over such a long time, and like I'm super grateful for like the patience of everyone, because like it's been a while. But like the pandemic has hit everybody in some ways. We recorded stuff a long time ago, but like our post-production process was pretty involved, and it shows in a great way. Like our sound designer, David, did some really awesome stuff. Like you'll hear, like vampire attacks, car chases, giant Aztec death machines inside of old temples. It's really cool. Like just the soundscape he was able to create, and bring together all these different puzzle pieces from all over the world and make it feel like one big world. And I'm excited for people to get a chance to enter it.
Oh, I'm so excited, friends. All the more after having this great conversation with you. I thank you both so much for taking the time to speak with me tonight, and help me release another episode of Smark and Friends. I think this was a wonderful conversation. I'm so excited to hear the Luchador 1000 fights of El Fuego Fuerte. Please excuse me. But before I let you go, please let the audience know where to follow you on social media, and of course, any other important links regarding the show. Jeffrey, let's start with you.
Well, you can follow me I'm more so active on my Instagram, and it's at Jeffry Tito Saenz, minus the quotation marks.
Perfect. And Dan?
Yep. I'm on the socials. DV Fletcher at DV Fletcher. Yep. And then most importantly, you want to follow the show. Our website is up, theluchadorpod.com, and it's on all the socials: Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, at the Luchador Pod. And our trailer will be up, and you can subscribe to get ready for all the subsequent episodes on Spotify, Google Podcasts, Apple Podcasts, wherever you listen, we are there. And I'm so excited.
Perfect. And rather than have our listeners turn off the podcast, run to check out the podcast teaser, why don't you do the honors, Dan, and introduce the teaser right here on the podcast?
All right. Let's do it all. Maybe for the first time, maybe not. Enjoy the very first trailer for the Luchador podcast, the Luchador 1000 Fights of El Fuego Fuerte.
In Mexico City, masked wrestlers known as luchadores will set aside their rivalries of the ring to keep their city safe from the dangers of this world and beyond.
Let's get a good look at that neck of yours.
Of all the luchadores, none were as brave or as strong as El Fuego Fuerte.
El Fuego Fuerte has defended the Mexico City Championship.
But would you mind taking the mask off while we talk? You cut somewhat of a dynamic figure, Señor Fuerte.
This mask is who I am. It is my soul and my heart.
But if you want the truth, wrestle it from me.
So be it. I intend to find and stop those mujeres vampiras before they strike again.
These are the 1,000 fights of El Fuego Fuerte, the Luchador.
Find the Luchador on iTunes, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts.
That was my conversation with Dan Valero Fletcher and Jeffry Tito Saenz of the Luchador, the 1,000 Fights of El Fuego Fuerte. Didn't I say by the end of this podcast you'd be chomping at the bit to hear the Luchador? Because, man, those are some pretty cool guest stars that they have lined up, and the premise just sounds fantastic. October 5th cannot come soon enough for me. I'm sure you're with me on that. If you like what you heard today, please head over to ratethispodcast.com/lovewrestlingca. Leave a kind word for yours truly, and, of course, the other amazing content being produced here at Love Wrestling. We're quite proud of what we're doing. We hope you're enjoying it as well. And, thanks for joining us. You can follow me on social media at SmarkMouth on Twitter, at Smark.mouth on Instagram. You can follow the show, Smark and Friends, on Twitter. And, of course, you can follow at Love Wrestling CA on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram, and TikTok as well. I almost always forget TikTok. Thanks for joining Dan, Jeffrey, and I. Smark and Friends will be back next week. Till then, friends.